Welcome to History That Hits. I'm here to tell you about a discovery that's sending ripples through the world of biblical scholarship. And it didn't come from a dusty archive. It came from an algorithm, an artificial intelligence named after one of the most enigmatic figures in ancient Jewish tradition. And what it found may rewrite biblical history. The Dead Sea Scrolls have been studied for nearly 80 years. Scholars thought they knew when these texts were written. But an AI called Enoch just told them they were wrong. Not by a little. Some of these scrolls may be decades older than believed, others potentially centuries. The implications are staggering. If the AI is right, we may need to reconsider when the Book of Daniel was composed, and fundamentally rethink who wrote these sacred texts. Let's go back to 1947. A Bedouin shepherd named Muhammad Edich Dib is searching for a lost goat among the limestone cliffs near the Dead Sea. He tosses a stone into a cave opening. Instead of hearing the bleat of his goat, he hears something else entirely, the sound of shattering pottery. Inside that cave, and eventually 10 others nearby, lay the greatest manuscript discovery of the 20th century. Nearly 1,000 scrolls. Some intact. Most in fragments. These were the Dead Sea Scrolls, the oldest known copies of Hebrew Bible texts, predating any previous manuscripts by 1,000 years or more. For decades, scholars have tried to determine exactly when each scroll was written. This matters enormously. Dating tells us who might have written these texts. Traditional methods relied on two approaches. Radiocarbon dating could analyze the parchment itself, but it damages precious material and often yields imprecise ranges. The other method was paleography, the study of ancient handwriting. Experts would compare letter forms across manuscripts, looking for stylistic evolution over time. But paleography has a fundamental limitation. It depends on human judgment. Two experts examining the same scroll might disagree by a century or more. Enter artificial intelligence. And enter a project with a name that carries profound symbolic weight: Enoch. The AI takes its name from the Book of Enoch, one of the Dead Sea Scrolls itself. According to biblical tradition, Enoch was Noah's great-grandfather. Genesis says Enoch walked with God, then was no more, one of only two figures in the Hebrew Bible taken directly to heaven without dying. The researchers who built this AI chose the name deliberately. They're asking their creation to see what human eyes cannot. Patterns hidden in ancient ink. Published in PLOS ONE on June 4, 2025, the study introduced a machine learning model trained to recognize the subtle evolution of scribal handwriting over centuries. Here's how it works. The AI was fed images of scrolls with known dates, those confirmed through radiocarbon testing. It learned to correlate handwriting features with specific time periods. But Enoch doesn't just look at what humans see. It analyzes microscopic ink trace patterns, the tiny variations in how ink flows and dries on parchment. It examines character shape and curvature at a level invisible to the naked eye, features so subtle that centuries of trained paleographers never detected them. The results were striking. When tested against manuscripts of known age, Enoch could narrow dating uncertainty to approximately plus or minus 30 years. That's remarkable precision for texts over 2,000 years old. It outperforms conventional radiocarbon ranges for the period between 350 BCE. But here's where it gets controversial. When Enoch analyzed undated scrolls, it suggested some were significantly older than scholars had believed. Two scrolls in particular caught attention. The first was designated 4Q114, a manuscript containing portions of the Book of Daniel. The second was 4Q109, a scroll of Ecclesiastes, that haunting meditation on the meaning of life that begins with the words, "vanity of vanities." Traditional paleography had dated these scrolls to around 150 BCE, but Enoch pushed the dates back significantly, to somewhere between 2020 and 65 BCE. That's a difference of 50 to 70 years. In biblical scholarship, where every decade matters for understanding textual development, this is enormous. If Daniel was copied around 220 BCE, it means the original composition may have occurred even earlier. That would challenge widespread scholarly consensus about the book's origins. Most scholars currently date Daniel's composition to the 160s BCE, during the Maccabean revolt against Greek rule. The theory is that it was written as resistance literature. But if copies of Daniel existed decades earlier, the book may be genuinely prophetic rather than historical fiction dressed as prophecy. The theological implications run deep. Understandably, not everyone is convinced. The study itself acknowledges important limitations. The AI's predictions agreed with human paleographers 79% of the time. The 21% disagreement raises questions. When centuries of interpretation hang in the balance, a 1 in 5 error rate demands scrutiny. Critics argue that AI cannot capture the full context that human experts bring to analysis. A trained paleographer doesn't just see letter shapes, they understand historical circumstances. They know which scribal schools operated when. They recognize individual handwriting quirks. They understand the accidents of history that affected manuscript production. Defenders of the AI methodology counter that Enoch provides something paleography cannot. Objectivity. 2 runs of the algorithm will always produce the same result. Human experts, by contrast, bring unconscious biases. A scholar invested in a particular dating theory may interpret ambiguous evidence to support their hypothesis. The study's authors emphasize that Enoch should complement human expertise, not replace it. The AI is a tool, not an oracle. This debate reflects broader tensions in humanities research. As AI enters fields long dominated by human interpretation, scholars are asking fundamental questions about knowledge and authority. Can algorithms understand meaning? Should they? And what happens when machine analysis contradicts generations of careful human scholarship? For the Dead Sea Scrolls specifically, the stakes couldn't be higher. These texts are foundational documents for 3 major world religions. They contain the oldest known copies of biblical books. They document Jewish beliefs and practices during a pivotal period, the centuries just before and after Jesus. Changes to dating don't just affect academic papers. They potentially alter how believers understand sacred texts, their origins, their authority, their meaning. Consider what's at stake with the Book of Daniel. Its prophecies about empires rising and falling have shaped Jewish and Christian eschatology for millennia. If Daniel was written during the Maccabean period, its prophecies were actually coded commentary on current events, predictions made after the fact. But if Daniel predates those events by generations, as Enoch's dating might suggest, the text takes on a different character entirely. The implications ripple outward. The researchers behind Enoch acknowledge this weight. They've been careful to present their findings as hypotheses requiring further investigation, not definitive conclusions. They've made their methodology transparent, publishing in an open access journal. The training data, the algorithms, the results, all available for scrutiny and replication. This is how science is supposed to work. A bold claim, supported by evidence, submitted to the community for testing. Time will tell if Enoch's dates hold up. In the meantime, the study has opened new possibilities for manuscript research worldwide. If AI can date Hebrew scrolls, why not Greek manuscripts? Latin codices? Arabic texts? Every library, every archive, every museum holding ancient texts now has a potential new dating tool. The technology Enoch represents could spread far beyond biblical studies. But perhaps the most remarkable thing about this story is what it says about the nature of discovery itself. New tools reveal new truths. When Galileo pointed his telescope at Jupiter, he saw moons that had orbited for millions of years unseen. The moons didn't change. Our ability to perceive them did. Enoch represents something similar for ancient manuscripts. The ink patterns were always there, embedded in every stroke made by scribes 2 millennia ago. Human eyes couldn't see them. Human minds couldn't process them, but trained on the right data, an algorithm could detect what we never knew to look for. There's something poetic about naming this AI after Enoch. In the Book of Enoch, the patriarch is shown visions of cosmic secrets, hidden knowledge revealed through divine grace. Now a different kind of Enoch sees different secrets, patterns in ink, echoes of human hands long turned to dust, signatures of time encoded in every character. If this story has sparked your curiosity, you can see the Dead Sea Scrolls yourself. The Israel Museum in Jerusalem houses the Shrine of the Book, a stunning architectural space built specifically for these texts. The dome is designed to resemble the lids of the jars that held the scrolls. Inside, fragments of Isaiah, Psalms, and other texts await. It's a pilgrimage site for scholars and the curious alike. Can't make it to Jerusalem? The Leon Levy Dead Sea Scrolls Digital Library offers high-resolution images of manuscripts online, completely free. You can zoom in on the very ink traces that Enoch analyzes. See the letter forms that have prompted 70 years of scholarly debate. The past is a click away. For deeper context, consider John J. Collins' book simply titled The Dead Sea Scrolls. It's the standard academic introduction, rigorous but readable, and follow developments in AI-assisted archaeology through academic journals and quality science journalism. This field is moving fast. The Enoch study appeared in PLOS ONE, an open-access journal. You can read the full paper, examine the methodology, and draw your own conclusions about its findings. This is what makes our moment in history so remarkable. Technologies developed for pattern recognition in commerce and security are now illuminating ancient mysteries. An AI that might have been trained to identify faces or detect fraud is instead learning the handwriting of scribes who copied scripture by candlelight 2,000 years ago. Whether Enoch's specific dates prove correct or require revision, the methodology represents a genuine breakthrough. We now have tools to ask questions we couldn't ask before. And in scholarship, new questions matter as much as new answers. They redirect attention. They challenge assumptions. They keep the pursuit of knowledge alive. The Dead Sea Scrolls have guarded their secrets for 2 millennia. In caves above the Salt Sea, they waited while empires rose and fell, while languages evolved and faiths spread across continents. Now an algorithm named for a patriarch walks among their pages, seeing what human eyes never could. The scrolls are speaking again, in a language of ink patterns and statistical models. What they're saying might change everything we thought we knew, or it might confirm that the experts were right all along. Either way, we're listening. That's history that hits. Thank you for joining me. Until next time, keep questioning, keep learning, and remember, the past is never as settled as it seems.